This is going to be the first video in probably a series of videos or a number of videos and updates that'll come out. I closed on 6 acres back in February, and it's going to be my first time building out a whitetail property. I know it's a small micro property, but still has the potential to shoot a lot of big bucks. I've done a lot of research and talked to a lot of good friends that have been managing whitetails for a long time. And I've also kind of taken some of my own ideas from what I've built over the last several years of hunting whitetails on whether it's private land or public land, and kind of tailoring them to this piece of property. Jeff Sturgis, learned a lot from him. Another big shout out to my friend Landry Otten. He's watched every YouTube video under the sun. He's also, I'll have a picture of his buck that he harvested last year and the year before. He's really getting them dialed in. Was able to take just shy of 170-inch buck on his property in Wisconsin. Another shout out to Andy Johnson and his dad Brian. They've given me a lot of tips on planting food plots. They actually came in, helped me pull and push some trees around, till some stuff up, which you'll see later in the video. What I wanted to do here is initially walk you through my thoughts and how I wanted to set up this piece. So I'm going to have it probably pulled up in a map right here, the layout of the property. The access is from the road on the east, which lines up really well. Most of our prevailing winds here are west, northwest, especially once it starts getting colder, along with southwest winds. We don't often have an east wind, but this property still sets up to be able to hunt on an east wind. So some of the things I looked at, I'm also going to be building a house on here someday, and so I kind of want to leave that initial opening up by the road alone. No reason to pull deer there. Eventually that's where I'm going to build. So as you kind of look to the west of the property, I'll have it highlighted, there's an opening there where there was an old set of power lines. Those have been taken out, removed, and so that's going to be the main source of food. So what I wanted to do is give these deer something good in the summer. I know it's not going to take long for them to whittle through the food that's going to be out there, but it's going to be just shy of half an acre. I'm going to do beans here in the summer, and then it's going to transition into brassicas here in the fall. So I'll come back in, plant brassicas in late August, early September. As you look further to the west, I'll have it highlighted on the map, but there's actually an old 2-track that I've come in and widened out. I widened this out for a nice big clover plot here in the woods. This will be a major source of food, especially early in the year for these deer, between the clover, the chicory, and the beans that are out here. And the reason I wanted to have this pole is there's actually really no great ag in between here and there. There's actually a neighbor to the east that has an apple farm. They've got probably 200 apple trees, but most of these deer are bedding to the west. I'm going to highlight this big slough. That slough, there's actually a point that runs out on it, and kind of a great bedding corridor for these deer, especially given the different wind directions and such. They can tuck into there, feel totally safe, and see any predators coming. So from what I gathered looking at aerials, I believe most of the deer are going to be coming from there. I've actually kind of gotten thrown a loop or a curveball as I've had some trail cameras out on this property now for the last couple of weeks. There's actually a ton of deer movement from the east. I've gotten to know that neighbor pretty well. They're also deer hunters, and they've managed deer really well. But that's something I didn't take into consideration for. So what you can see in some of these update videos that I'll post along with this kind of initial breakdown is I have a neighbor who bought 6 acres to myself. He's building a house there. There's a couple open points where we can see into each other's lawns, or whatever you want to call it, his lawn, my food plot. So we've come in, we've put some screening cover in. We've done 2 different types just for this year. The reason I wanted to do that, I did giant miscanthus from Real World Wildlife Products. That's not going to come in for 2 to 3 years to the height that I need it. So that's going to be my 2 to 3 year plan. On the inside of that, we did an annual blend that's going to get me to 8 to 10 feet tall this year, and then we came in and did 2 rows of pine trees. I wanted to say thank you to Andy and his dad Brian. We beat up the ground, dug up, I think it was 136 or 146 trees that day, and planted them all on the same day too. So appreciate you guys there as well. Now on the north side of the power line poles, there's also an opening to my neighbor to the north. Same thing, same combo, giant miscanthus, annual blend, pine trees. I'm trying to really be able to screen off that food plot, get deer to feel comfortable coming into there. The second food plot also has that same problem to the neighbor to the south. This is a shaded area, so we did plant a bunch of white pines since they do better, but I don't know that there's going to be a real great solution. I tried doing an annual blend and giant miscanthus to see how well it grows in the shade, but I'm pretty doubtful it's gonna do what I want it to do. So what I might end up doing this year is getting 2 or 3 big round bales and stacking them. It's just a real small opening. You've seen it in some of the videos, especially where the pine trees were planted. Just trying to close that area off, make these deer feel really comfortable. There's 2 other things that we did. I got 2 100-gallon water tanks. Most people dig them in, most people use the earth ponds. I actually elected, and I've seen so many deer drink out of cattle tanks, especially being out west. I think it's probably more advantageous for the deer not to have to bend over. Andy Johnson's dad, Brian, he's also a fan of not digging in those tanks, leaving them standing. The deer get used to them, and they almost enjoy using them more when they're 2-3 feet out of the ground. They don't have to bend over to get that water. So again, working that property, it'll be house. There's a little, probably ½ acre, 3/4 acres of woods. There's actually a few main trails that roll in there east to west from these deer coming between this slough and that slough, probably also coming from the apple farm as well. Some great corridors. Now coming this way, we're gonna have that beans and brassica plot, depending on the time of the year. Move into the woods. This wooded plot's about 0.35 acres, and that's gonna be clover and chicory. And then moving further west, it's kind of going to be more of the deep woods. It's going to be a lot of bedding. I'm going to leave a lot of this alone, maybe have a few sits during prime time rut, and that's only going to be if we have an east wind. There's a pond all the way on the north, or the southeast corner. That pond is going to allow me to be able to set up down on the edge of that and blow my scent across that pond and have any deer that's working that edge coming around, scent checking all the woods for does. It'll be a great spot for an east wind setup. Other than that, I'm pulling so many deer with this food. There's a few other ponds that really pinch them in that I don't really need to come all the way across my property to get access to these deer, and helping kind of leave some of this back, more secluded woods for deer bedding and cover. One of the ideas I'm tossing around is if I come in back behind me here and do some hinge cutting. I don't know enough about it. It's one of the only things I can really think to maybe have some of these deer hold a little bit closer to my piece or keep them on my piece. Every single one of these neighbors hunts. Congratulations to a few of them. They got some nice deer last year. And there's a few good deer on camera on the listing and everything, so hopefully some deer made it. But other big shout out to Moultrie game cams. I have a box here. We're gonna cover this property in trail cameras to get the most amount of data, how deer are using it, how they're gonna change using it once the neighbors put their house here just to the south of me, and really get a good game plan of where it makes sense to run my deer stands for the year, and where I think I'm gonna kill my buck. So 6 acres micro property can be extremely productive. I'm doing as much as I can to this 6 acres to pull the deer here. Like I had said, working on getting some deer stands up next. I'm probably gonna do 2 enclosed deer stands. I don't know what I'm gonna do for those yet, just because I want to be able to hunt late season. I'm gonna be gone most of September elk hunting. I'm gonna be gone during most of the rut, hopefully mule deer hunting, and that really leaves December, end of maybe a little early November here, there, days after work, things like that, to be in the woods whitetail hunting. That was actually the biggest push for me. One is property is expensive these days, and 6 acres that I can also tie into my house someday when I build it was kind of the only justifiable thing for me for buying, building, and having a little bit of whitetail property. With land in Wisconsin pretty much going for $10,000 an acre or more, it's just not super realistic for people our age to get into whitetail properties. So don't think you need a 100, 200 acre chunk. Obviously that would be nice to have. That's a dream someday, but yeah, you can do the same thing here on these micro properties and get access to big bucks. Just be selective. You can't just go buy any 6 acres. Do some research, do a ton of e-scouting, look at how these properties line up. And if you find the right 5 to 6 acres, it can be extremely productive. So I'm gonna get in, show you guys a little bit of the video on kind of what we've been doing, some of the step-by-step updates. Right now I'm standing here, it is early to mid-May. This process started probably about a month ago and getting everything tilled up, worked in. And I'm going to continue to update you guys on what I'm seeing on trail cameras, how these plots are growing, what I'm learning as a first-time whitetail property builder. I'm already, as I look around, my clover plot in here is probably about 30% broadleaf weeds, and I'm going to have to figure out how to kill these. I was doing some research on the way here. There's a little bit of grasses in here, but the glyphosate from when I originally sprayed this took care of most of the grass. So gonna have to combat and learn a lot of things. You know, I didn't do any soil tests, which I probably should have, but yeah, we're gonna see how it goes this year, and I'll keep you updated. So let's dive into a few of these updates and watch me build out my first time hunting property, and I will give you what I learned, what not to do, what I like, and what I'm hearing from others. So stay tuned. I appreciate you clicking on this video. Thank you. Alrighty, so little property update. Bought 6 acres here in February. I'm bringing the brush hog out. We've got to clear up a lot of this underbrush to be able to get some food plots in, and then also for the layout of where the shop's gonna go. So we got the brush hog running there. Wanted to get kind of a update video before I whack all this down. But this is the front little plot. I'll walk through some of the property back behind. I'll go through what I'm and how I'm laying out food plots, some screening cover, and then where I'm going to plant some trees and things like that. But we'll do a full property walkthrough here quick. Yeah, just so you guys can kind of get the layout and see what things look like. But this is the front portion of the property. I'll have an aerial pulled up, but this all needs to get cleaned up in here so I can do the layout of the shop and then maybe a small food plot. And then we'll walk through this trail back to the plot number 1. All right, so walked up here to plot 2, just finished brush hogging the front side. As you can see, this will end up being about a ½ acre food plot. I think this year we're gonna try to till it up real good. We're gonna get beans in here early season, and then come fall, I'll till it back under again and plant some brassicas. But as you can see, kind of a lot of work. I got a lot of trees to clear out of here. The property lines there and up here are gonna get some pine trees. So that way here in a few years, that'll start to create some a nice barrier between the neighbors, some screening cover. I'm also gonna plant some giant miscanthus, and then I'm gonna do a annual blend of some other tall grasses just to get some screening in here this year. So it's only a 6 acre piece. This little trail right here runs up to that front where we're building and putting a plot in this year, followed by about probably a ½ acre of woods. And then plot number 3 is a pretty shaded plot here in the woods. We'll walk you back there in a second. I'm going to be raking that out today and trying to get some clover and chicory down. So big project, lots to do, lots to get cut down, and yeah, property update number 1. All right, so just wrapping up the day here. I got a lot of the cutting done. Still have to come in and spray all this, but as you can see, it really opened it up here in front. Building site's probably going to be kind of along these trees right here. We'll head over this way. We'll walk through and kind of see what we did here today. So there's this main deer trail. I left kind of some cover up here just until I can plant some taller grass up front, just so the deer keep using this and feel safe. But there's kind of this second trail back in here. The deer are using this pretty heavily. But the goal is on the back side of this, I'm going to start doing some clover that goes down into the bean field. We were able to get the 43 trees planted. Probably going to try to plant a couple more. There's a few areas that I want to thicken up a little bit. So, but you can see trail's starting to open up here. There's a good little downhill area. I'll show some pictures of kind of what I plan to do on this face. It gets pretty good sun, so opens up as we kind of come out into the field here. This is the north side of the property, so I planted, I believe there's 21 trees here on the north side, pines, that'll eventually become a barrier. I'm also going to add some of that miscanthus to really build that wall these first few years. But as you can see, this is going to be the big plot. It's going to be just about half an acre of beans. We'll make our way down to kind of that second trail. We'll walk into the woods. I didn't get much done on the second larger plot. I got the edges cut out. I'm going to have to come back with the leaf blower, blow that out this week, spray that one. And yeah, making some progress. First day really out here, giving it. Like I said, for screening cover, these pine trees put in. There's not as many on this side. This is one of the sides I need to thicken up just a little bit. But come down this way and you can see these pines I planted the other day. Then there's a good pond down here. So we'll throw a couple stands up. I am probably going to do some kind of enclosed stand here over this plot, just so I can hunt it later in the season, stay warm. But we're going to venture here into plot number 3. So spin around. You can see a pretty nice big opening here through the woods. We'll get up here and look the other way so the sun isn't quite as blinding for you. This is all going to get raked out, blown out. I opened it up a little bit wider, so this will end up being just about half an acre. Honestly, maybe a tad more than half an acre. But we're going to do clover and chicory back here in the woods. But yeah, this is going to be kind of a good little kill plot. I'll have another stand in here covering this one. And then there's a nice ridge system that all these deer funnel in and out on. So we'll add a water tank up here. Give the deer something to drink when they're sitting in the food. But if you look over my shoulder, you can see much better there. Kind of this nice big open area continues on all the way down into here. And that's where we planted another 20 something trees down at the end for some screening cover. So you can see those trees right there. But that's the progress we've made. Really, first day out here, really working the land, opening this up. I got to come in, spray all these, blow all the leaves off. But we'll take some videos, kind of show you around. This is the nice ridge system back here that I'm hunting. The deer seem to kind of funnel right down the top of that ridge. There's another pond down here, and it kind of just funnels them right up into my food. So I'll do some aerial screenshots, kind of how I think where the deer are bedding, how they're utilizing this property for what I know right now. I've got one camera up, one mole tree, gonna get some more rolling here pretty soon. So excited to keep working on this. this is kind of the first day breaking ground here, and I'll keep you updated on kind of everything that happens as we start putting some plant in the ground. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Well, little plot update here. Looking pretty good. We were able to have the neighbor come in and till this bad boy up for us. I'll come in here and probably respray this next week just to kill off anything that might start regrowing. But no, it looks really good. There's a few other areas. There's kind of big rock up here I might pick out. Eventually we'll get rid of these trees here to be able to make this plot a little bit bigger. But no, it looks fantastic right now. We're waiting for this glyphosate to take hold. Sprayed 3 days ago. We'll just come in here and kind of take a peek at the this will be the woods plot. See if everything's dying off yet, but for the most part it looks pretty green. The stuff I guess kind of looks like it's starting to die. So yeah, little plot update. Looks like he might have come back here with just to check it out on the side-by-side. I'm not sure if I'll have him swing in here and till this as well, or if I'll just hand rake all this. There's a lot of rocks in here and there's quite a few sticks I got to take care of and stuff yet. So no, it's coming together real good. It's actually kind of concerning how green all that is up there since I just sprayed it and it's still growing. So maybe I did something wrong. We will find out. Spray it again, restart, but everything's looking good. Very happy. Well, update number 3, I think at this point. We came in here today. This is where all those little buckthorn trees were. We got Andy's dad was kind enough to come up here and drag them all out and push all the roots out and pull a bunch of rocks for me, and so it's all kind of just pushed up here in the pile. But that really opened up the food plot, gave me probably an extra 7-8 yards of plantable ground through this whole section. So yeah, it's starting to really come together. We threw a little bit of the screening seed down here on the top ends of the plot. We'll see how that works, but yeah, it's coming together very nicely. Well, this is probably like the 4th update on the small property build. I am not an expert by no means on this whitetail property build out stuff, but I'll have a video kind of explaining what I envisioned in my head and how the deer are kind of working through this property and why I set it up the way I did. You know, I've watched a lot of Jeff Sturgis. I have a lot of close friends that have kind of helped me out on a lot of this. Obviously, I kind of compare everything to hunting out west, where I've learned a lot of my hunting stuff. There's a big pile of sticks here. But the food plot's really coming along. We got all the beans planted here. It's the first week of May, last week of April. And the beans plot couldn't look better. The only thing we did kind of mess up on today is I planted some tall cover screening grass up here and down on this end. That got kind of raked in with some of the beans. So I'll probably have to come back through, reseed a little bit of that. But coming over here to the woods plot. We got that all drug up and raked in today, and that looks phenomenal. So as you can see, the clover chicory plot here, it's turned out really great, actually. Got it all raked in. It ended up being probably almost another, I wouldn't say half an acre, but 0.35, at least a third of an acre, if not a little more. But brought that drag in here. You can see how well this all drug in. Kind of re-went over all the seed after we put it down, tried to work it into the ground just to get better seed to soil contact. I'm gonna come back here, move the trail camera. I'm gonna move it out into the field just because I know the deer are gonna come and check that out. At least after it got tilled the other day, they were out there milling about pretty hard. So come up here, check the top end of this, back into this little bit, and that larger part. So it's gonna be about a third of an acre, a little more. Trying to get these deer as much food here on the east side of my property. It sets up well for any kind of west wind, which is the prevailing wind. Nice ridge system that funnels right off of this. We're gonna do a water tank up here in this plot, and then one more in the bigger beans plot that'll eventually turn into brassicas. So gonna go pull this camera now and get out of here for the night and come back in a couple weeks and see how things are growing. But came in, sprayed all this with glyphosate. You know, nothing really died, which was surprising to me, but we have the ground worked up real well, and if I do need to kill it all and restart, it's part of learning. But looks good enough for me right now, and that's kind of the property update number 4. So stay tuned and see what we can put together here on a small little 6-acre property build out. So as you can see today, we're going to plant some of this giant miscanthus. Just going to try to create a screening wall here along the property line, give myself a little bit more cover. I have it probably about, I don't know, 10 yards off of the property line, so I can use this as a little corridor to get into my stands back here in the woods. But just trying to kind of break up here a little bit between the neighbors' stuff and my food plot, just to give these deer hopefully a little bit more comfort. This first year I also planted their annual screening grass that's 8 to 10 foot tall. That's just a temporary screen on that inside until this miscanthus can get 2-3 years down the road and get real tall. It's probably going to shade these pine trees quite a bit for the first couple years, probably stunting some of the growth that they would have had. But I think I at least need to have a good screening cover kind of between my stuff and the neighbors, just with everything that they have going on. They're dog trainers. You can see kind of way out here all the dog training equipment. So just trying to get these deer to feel a little bit more comfortable in here. So we're gonna get to planting and stay tuned. Thanks for watching the updates.